guys, hope you had a lovely Easter and welcome back. So it's for some of you first lesson back after Easter, for others the second. But we have finished all the quantitative methods. So now seems like a good time to have a go at looking at 10 markers. So we're going to do this in phases, but today we are looking at at 10 markers in sociological research. So the PowerPoint is there to go with this. Okay, so what the mark scheme gives you guidance on is three specific things. Now I've noted this down, I'm just going to expand on them a little bit more as we go. So you need to show good knowledge and understanding. So you do that by identifying a correct advantage or disadvantage of the given research method. So say if they've given you I'll say a 20 marker, a lot of you have done well on structured interviews, and they ask you for two advantages. If you say it could be a practical method and then you expand on why, so you say it can be quick to do and then develop your explanation on why it can be quick to do. So for example, explain that the data is easy to analyse, it's all scripted, it's closed answers, so you don't need to spend a lot of time, it doesn't require a lot of personal skills. So you're identifying advantage and developing it, and that's how you get your knowledge marks. The second set of marks to get into the top band, which is on here. So remember, top band is 8, 9 or 10. So you're looking at an A, a high A star basically. So you need to explain why the thing's important. So take it kind of outside the box. What I would say is imagine you are a person doing sociological research and what's going to be important for you. So if you go back to structured interviews, you're going to say it's quick to do. Now, think about when you're doing your homework, it's easier to do something that takes less time. So it's easier for the research to do. Now you've got to imagine that's their job, they've got a limited amount of time to do it, so they're going to spend less amount of time, they're going to prefer research methods that take less amount of time. Okay, and finally you might want to explain why in a situation when it's appropriate. So we know it's a research method and it's quick, so maybe think of a group of participants that perhaps don't have a lot of time, so it'd be useful to use on them, or a research method where you wouldn't have a lot of time to investigate it. So maybe you're studying something like schools where you wouldn't be allowed in for very long. So give a reason why it'd be useful to be quick, and that's how you get your 3 distinct marks. So on the next slide, what I've done is I've given you an example of half a 10 marker that would get full marks. So I'm just going to read through it and tell you where the candidate here is getting the different marks. Okay, so the question is about official statistics, so reasons why official statistics are good, 2 advantages of official statistics. So the candidate has chosen to start with a practical advantage. So one practical advantage of official statistics are they are cheap to conduct. They are accurate, but then we can see they've shown high knowledge by saying why. The information is made available online for free through sites such as the publication of league tables and census reports. They have completed their knowledge criteria. They have said a correct advantage and they've explained why. This means that the researcher does not have to cover costs of training staff or paying for information. This is particularly important because many sociologists have a limited budget to conduct research. So you've gained your marks because you've developed why it's particularly important. Finally, they've said using official statistics can be particularly beneficial for studying places that would be expensive for the researcher to go out and study themselves, such as information from other countries. So we know official statistics, like for example, in a minute with coronavirus, we've got official statistics of places like Italy, Spain. The researcher would not have the money to go out and study these places by themselves. So using these official statistics is a quick way of gaining that data without having to fork out the costs. So this is a full mark paragraph. Now, before I get you started on a 10 marker, what I'd like to introduce you to is I don't want you to actually write the 5 marker. It's I've split these into 3 questions to get you thinking about the different skill levels. So first of all, I'd like you to identify and explain another advantage of official statistics. So we've talked about practical issues. You might want to talk about representativity. You might want to talk about ethical issues. You might want to talk about reliability. All of these things you can talk about as an advantage and explain why they're reliable, why they're ethical, and why they're representative. And then explain why it's important. Why, for example, would you want to get information from thousands of people? And then finally, give a particular area of the research where these official statistics could be useful. So, for example, we know there's loads and loads of information about schools. So it's going to be useful if you want to study the education system, because you yourself are not going to be able to go and study thousands and thousands of schools. Question 3 is really pushing you into the top grade boundary. So the 3rd question should be the hardest question to answer. Okay. Once you've gone through that, you have covered the skill levels in order to feel quite comfortable, hopefully, about what you need to do to break down the 10 marker. So in the final part of today's lesson, I'd like to get you to have a go. Now, I've chosen disadvantages rather than advantages. It's exactly the same. You pick a problem, you develop why it's a problem, you explain for a sociologist why it's particularly bad for them, and then you give a particular research method or a particular group you might be studying where this might be particularly bad. So if you've gone for ethical issues like deception, something you can think about that might be a good place to start. Think about vulnerable groups that would be particularly harmful to be deceived. Or another route you could go about is you could link in the example we looked at in class, which was the Milgram experiment, and explain why, like the ethical problems that were caused for the group who studied that, or why that wasn't a particularly valid study. So it's just about developing that point a little bit. Okay, now just to explain, some people are getting a bit concerned about time. None of these lessons should take you any longer than an hour. So if I just run through how long you should be spending on each thing. Now, I've run through the mark scheme for you, that's done and dusted. With the outline and explain, as you're watching this video, you might want to rewatch it and highlight where the person's shown the different skills, or write around it so you've got that for you for your revision and to help you write the 10 marker to give you a bit of advantage. So that should take no longer than 5 minutes. Your question 1, 2 and 3 should take you between 10 and 15 minutes. So at this point you should have spent no longer than half an hour. And then if you imagine when you're writing a 10 marker, you would only give yourself 15 minutes. Obviously it's going to take you a bit more time because you're going for your night, but you should spend no longer than 25 minutes writing this 10 marker. If you're spending more time than that, you're spending a ridiculous amount of time. You should be spending no longer than an hour on these lessons. Okay, finally, on the last slide, I know some of you have got a bit more time and maybe you're getting a little bit bored and you want some suggestions of things to do. I often suggest some books, but I know books aren't for everyone. So there's a couple of TV series I'm going to be recommending in the next couple of videos. So I watched this recently myself. I really enjoyed it. The whole 2 series are good and interesting to watch, but there's 3 episodes that really link to sociology. So Hate Thy Neighbour, it's on 4OD, or some of you have got Now, you can watch it on Now, but it's all on 4OD. It's like one free place to watch it. So series 2 is particularly good for sociology. We've got episode 4, which is called Prison for Kids, which is very useful for single parent families. So what this is all about is it's a documentary where basically they take the kids that have a lot of trouble behaving, they've been really naughty, and they take them to like fake prison where they actually spend a lot of time interacting with people who are actually in prison, and it is remarkable how many of them are single parent families, and you get to learn a little bit more about how that's affected them if they've got an absent father, and it relates to a lot of the areas of the course that we've covered so far. United States Oil and Gas, which is episode 5 of season 2, is we will be studying green crime next year, and as an aspect of that we look at green criminology and poverty. and this really introduces that, so it would be a good way to give yourself a head start for next year. Episode 9 is Feminism 101, which obviously is useful for feminism, particularly radical feminism and a new wave of feminism, and it looks at things like slut walks that we're looking at next year. The premise of the show is it's a comedian, he goes out and looks at all these kind of shocking things that are going on in America and introduces participants, introduces their audience to it and goes back and talks to people about it. So it is like, if you're really interested in like the stuff we study in sociology, I would say it's a good watch. Anyway, I hope you're all alright. I'll be sending more information out tomorrow. 12A, you have already been sent a table of what we're doing for the next 3 weeks. 12D, you will be getting that sent tomorrow. So you, in order to prepare yourself, you will be getting in the next 3 weeks 2 lessons to kind of catch up on things, where I will send an extension task for people that already ahead, and I will be doing assessments actually in the class time, so you won't be getting homework in the next 3 weeks to help people. If you've got any questions about this lesson or the PPE, please send it to me. Cheers, bye.